All right, we are recording.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Connect with Leslie. Today, I'm really happy to have with me our special guest, Brandon Chapman. He's with our IT department, indestructible, I think is what ID means, department, and he works out of our Edwardsville office. He works with our share members and keeps a lot of IT potential concerns under control with wit and wisdom and competence. So you might have spoken to Brandon on the phone. You probably have seen, if you're a share member, emails from him about printers behaving badly, something like that. And today he's going to talk about trends in public libraries in terms of IT and what might go wrong in public libraries? Maybe in terms of what? Ransomware?
Yeah.
Yes? Anything else you want to say?
Ransomware, viruses, things like that. In general, as you probably know, early May, we've seen on the news, something that made a lot of businesses want to cry. And, appropriately named Wannacry. It's we've seen airlines we've seen banks, airlines. They got infected by this what they call ransom. They call it ransomware because it's what it does. It holds your computer for ransom, or at least it holds your files for ransom. So what exactly is it? Well, I can show you what this is. It says, oops, your files have been encrypted. What happened to my computer? Well, as you can see, this is, Pulitzer Prize winning stuff that's on here. Anyway, this screen was on airline terminals. You probably go over to O'Hare or Lambert Airport, and they didn't get affected, but some airlines had this on their screen. Let's say you wanted to go from St. Louis to Tahiti. It's like we'll be departing in. Oh wait, our files have been encrypted. Oh, that's not good. So. So let's see, but what exactly is this? One of the oldest versions of this. Well, let's see, what did that look like? English translation of a piece of malware, and I just turned all your files into Swiss cheese. If you want them back, pay us. Have a nice day. So.
Where is this coming from? Where do these things, how do they, you're probably going to talk about that, but.
Yeah, actually,
Okay.
That's a very good question.
Okay.
Let's see, where exactly this was coming from. It actually it can come from all kinds of places. Recently, they've discovered that Wannacry came from, somewhat vulnerable computers, and they just decided, okay, that I found this hole in the system. All right, press button, send it out on the internet, boom. So, and it was in older versions of Windows and even some newer ones.
Okay.
So it stresses the importance of, if your computer says we have updates, it's a good idea to install them. Prevent things like this. Another way you can get infected, and it's not necessarily Wannacry, but just similar types of infections, would be like infected emails. Let's see, let me find my shady email example here. here's one example. Looks like it's from USAA Management, but it's really not. And yes, I edited that link so that you don't accidentally click on it and infect my own computer, because that would be very, very bad.
So when you click on these, what happens?
What tends to happen? It could be a number of things. It can be absolutely nothing. So you might just click on it about 20 times. It's like, hey, I'm trying to open up this invoice. I'm trying to open up this statement, and nothing's happening. So, but you find out like 2 or 3 hours later, you get one of these really nasty messages that says, oops, everything on your computer is shish kebab.
Okay.
And if you try to open it up, it'll give you, if you try to open up any, like your pictures or your pictures or documents, it would just give you a weird error message. It's like, well, what happened here? And it turns out that they encrypted your files, making it unreadable. And they're saying, okay, if you want the key to unlock your files, you're going to have to pay us to unlock them. And usually they'll say, you need to pay us in Bitcoin, because if you pay us any other way, then the authorities will track us down and lock us up. So we don't want that. So instead, and it's like, so you have to go through all these loops to pay these guys to unlock your files, and, well, trust. I mean, it may or may not work. In fact, before I worked for the system, I had a client who had a similar problem, and they had to pay the ransom, which was 1 or 2 Bitcoin, which was the equivalent of about $500 to unlock their files. And it actually did work, but they went that route because they didn't have any backups. So anyway, how could you prevent this? Well, keep your computer up to date is one thing. Don't open up any shady emails. And unfortunately, they're getting really good about making shady emails look legitimate, like the email I showed earlier. And just in general, you tell your kids, hey, don't talk to strangers. Don't talk to people you don't know. Just like you wouldn't open up that email. Well, obviously you wouldn't want your kids going to something that looks like this for any reason. So.
Oh, that's great. Did you find that photo with free candy on it? Or you
Yeah,
just did it? Okay.
I did.
So that's really helpful.
But unfortunately, we know in real life, hey, you see a creeper van out there with free candy, no, you don't want your kids going there. But in the computer world, it's not so easy. So you just have to look for subtle signs, like if it's an email that comes from somebody that you know, then does it really look like they typed that? I mean, you know that person, you know how they talk, you know how they type. Yeah. If it looks strange, it's probably not from them.
Brandon?
So, yes.
Mary is asking, do you feel it is important to have malware protection even if we are staying current with the updates on Windows 10?
It's a good question, and the answer is absolutely. And that was a topic I was going to get into. Does your antivirus, your malware protection, it's not going to protect you from everything. Just because your antivirus is up to date doesn't mean you could go click happy and say, ooh, click on this and click on this and click on this, because even your antivirus software is going to look at some of that and say, hey, it's okay. I'm going to let that through. And then bad things happen. So the answer to the question is yes, it's important to have it. It's just another layer of protection. If you happen to run into older threats, it will protect you from those. I mean, unfortunately, it's it's a cat and mouse game between the good guys and bad guys, and oftentimes the bad guys will come ahead, and your antivirus software is not going to know it's a virus until maybe a day or two later. But all in all, it's still better than not having any antivirus protection at all. So, well, now that we've scared people silly.
Are we going to do something else that's scary?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Are we
if you want to consider it scary.
Yeah.
If you consider it scary, let's talk about a emerging trend in technology that libraries can very much take advantage of. We've heard about it in the 90s, where it's like, it's a pipe dream. We don't know, it's fiction. But virtual reality, I mean, the technology's here. We did 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, we never imagined that we would have everything that we want to know in the palm of our hands, a little computer in the form of an iPhone or Android. 20, 30 years ago, if you wanted this much computing power, you'd have to fill up an entire room with lots of computer. They called them mainframes back then, but anyway. But the point I'm trying to make is, now that technology has gotten faster, gotten smaller, they've brought virtual reality into reality, I guess. But anyway,
we have these headsets.
Yep,
right?
We have these headsets. They're pretty simple. Mainly what you do is you would download an app on your smartphone that supports VR, virtual reality. You would have it play a video, which is really, it's a video that's shot with not just one camera, but a bunch of cameras in a 360 degree motion. And you put the smartphone in here.
You put it on your headset.
Put this on your head, and it'd probably look very goofy right now.
Oh, you think we look goofy?
Well, I know I do, but how about you?
I don't think we look goofy.
And fair warning, this will mess with your senses. Yes, this will mess with your senses. You will get sick. If you're prone to motion sickness, it can happen. Yes.
Yeah. Around how much does one of those headsets cost?
These headsets were very reasonably priced. I think about $40, $50.
And this is more of a low end.
Yeah, these are very low end. Just uses your smartphone, messes around. Yeah, uses your smartphone, tricks your eyes into thinking that you're actually there. And now on the high end, they have what's called Oculus Rift, which was bought by Facebook, and those headsets run around $500 to $600. But they plug into a computer instead of a smartphone. And when you wear one of those, it really feels like you're actually there. When you move your head, it will move with you. When you walk, well, about as far as you can without unplugging the cord, it will follow you. But either way, the lower end virtual reality headsets they may work well for your purpose, because all you need is an app on your smartphone, and one of these guys. Or Google has something called Google Cardboard, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a cardboard box on your head with some lenses. So you could buy the lenses for about $10, $15, $20, and take some piece of cardboard, fold it up, cut some holes in it, put it on your head, look even more silly, and you can have put your smartphone in there and you can have a virtual reality experience that's very similar to this, except it just looks sillier. But anyway, but as far as what you can do with VR technology in a library, well, I was back a couple days ago, I was told, I don't see what this is for. But what you can do with it is you can live inside a book, tell stories. You can download an app that corresponds to a book that you're reading, and you can live inside it. You could do like virtual field trips. Say you have a patron that's never been to Alaska.
That's where we went the other day.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And you can like play a VR video, and they can go through Alaska in virtual reality. And depending on whether you go Google Cardboard or one of these, or at the high-end Oculus Rifts, it could feel even more and more real to them. Yeah. So I saw one example online that was a library in Canada that offered a service. Like I think Toyota had a VR distracted driving simulator where you can have a teenager in your library go through the experience of driving and having virtual friends, and then have a virtual text, and then the bad things that can happen from distracted driving in virtual reality. The possibilities are endless. It's hard to think of them now, but then again, there were a lot of things that didn't think that libraries could take advantage of technology-wise at first, but you could see a lot of potential with VR.
Yeah.
I'm sure buying a few Oculus Rifts might not be within a budget, especially in the state of Illinois. But yeah, you could. There's more affordable options.
Yeah.
Out there.
Brandon, Johnny said that
yes.
They've talked about it, but they haven't gotten them yet. So some libraries are considering it.
Do you have a poll is there a way for us to poll folks on this? I forget, Julia.
I did a poll and no one has utilized it in their library.
Okay. So, but this is almost, we're almost there. We've got libraries that are doing 3D printing. We've got libraries that are checking out MiFis, right, for internet access away from the library, at home or on the go. This is coming. It's just not maybe.
It may be a couple years away. Once the higher end headsets like the Oculus Rifts and become more affordable, that would certainly be an option. And probably, and the technology evolves a little bit, because right now with the Oculus Rifts, you have to plug a USB cable into your computer, and you start walking around, all of a sudden unplug it and like, hey, what happened here? I thought I was, so yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, no. This is going back to your other subject, so I'll wait for you to finish this one.
Okay. Anyway, but back to motion sickness. It definitely happened. In fact, I tried this out a couple days ago, and it took me probably in fact, the next day I was still thinking that part of the world would just stop before moving with my eyes, just because one of the limitations of technology. If you were to watch a video on YouTube, or even if your internet connection is not the greatest, you might notice it even with this Zoom meeting, that say if I move my hand around, you might notice my hand just stops when it's supposed to go down because because it's streaming through your internet, and your internet decides to stop working for whatever reason. Well, with virtual reality, that can happen too. So if the video stops while you're moving around or you're walking, it really, really, really messes with your senses. I mean, your eyes are seeing one thing and your brain's thinking another thing. And if you're really sensitive to that stuff, you might want to grab a bag or so.
So how long did you have it on the other day?
About a half hour.
Okay.
About a half hour trying different videos out. I was sitting in my chair. I was swinging, downstairs, swiveling around in the chair. But of course that messed with me because the VR was showing me hiking down a Alaskan trail or on a boat, which was probably the worst thing to try. It's like, here, let's play the video that's on the boat when you're prone to motion sickness. Great idea.
So you're prone to motion sickness too already?
A little bit.
Right.
So.
Because when I looked at it, when I was down in your office, and I only looked at it for a little bit, so I can't say that I was feeling queasy or weird after it. But when I put on the goggles, the boat, there was like a canoe or whatever, and it was going toward a waterfall, and I'm like, Brandon, it's just like the Chevy show at Six Flags, if you remember that, because you're going over the roller coaster or whatever, and you can see that in the horizon there's nothing there. And I grabbed for a desk to hold on to because it feels that real. And again, I think that's part of maybe the whole programming challenge in a library setting or a public setting in general is are you waiting for the technology to improve or advance, or how do you handle that with perhaps sensitive users?
Yes, and the developers are addressing that as well. They're trying to alleviate a work around the possibilities of motion sickness, because if they don't, then they're not selling headsets, like on the high end, of course. Like Sony with their PlayStation 4, they have a PlayStation 4 VR, and they said sales have suffered a little bit because the people, although they love the experience, they love to play, to game in VR, they get sick within about 5 minutes and they can't do it anymore. So they're definitely trying to address that. How? Well, I'm not sure of all the ways, but of course the biggest way is making sure that making sure that your internet connection's stable when you try to do it, or if you've downloaded the video offline, make sure your computer or your phone can play that video without stuttering.
Okay.
Because that's really what's going to mess with your senses.
Okay, Brandon. Darlene was asking, what about deep freeze on patron use computers?
Deep freeze is fine its main purpose is that if a patron changes the settings around, deep freeze will just roll back, and anything that they've changed, all those changes are gone. That helps, but as far as files being encrypted by ransomware, it may actually help with files that are actually on that computer. But if that ransomware gets to other computers on your network, that's deep freeze that won't help in those cases. So, I mean, it's a good idea, but it alone won't be enough.
Other questions, Julia?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Can we pause the IT talk for a minute and talk about the board?
Sure,
Is that okay?
that's fine.
Okay. And then Julia will interrupt us if there's questions, other questions for Brandon, which I have a feeling there will be because it's much more interesting. And it's the unknown. I mean, that's always exciting. So I just want to give you all an update about our board meeting that was held May 25th, which was about 2 weeks ago, actually, a little more than 2 weeks ago. We are now, I'm happy to say we are now up to, again, a 15-member board, which is a full board. At the May meeting, Susan Pennington, who is a school librarian from Springfield School District number 186, was seated. So that completes the board. And we're very happy to have Susan with us. The board also discussed where the general fund is relative to the budget this year and relative to the funding that we have received from our area and per capita grant allocation for fiscal year 2017, and what we're still awaiting in terms of the awarded grant funds. So we're at basically, we've received about approximately one third of that grant, which was approximately $1.9 million. It's usually about $3.3 million, but because we're working at a 58% funding level, and this is the second of 2 years at that funding level, it's a lower amount overall, and we've received about 1/3. We're still anticipating that 2/3 at some point, which means that we've had to use our reserves to continue to move forward. And it's not a problem per se because that funding is awarded. It was, it's signed. We have a contract with the state and with Justy White. So with Secretary of State, Justy White. So we're not concerned about that. However, given the situation at the state, in Springfield in general, and what they're talking about now, I'm not sure what this new plan is called, which is, I think, a Republican devised plan to get Illinois a budget. I'm not sure what that where that's going, and everyone is hopeful, and I'm sure all of you are as well, that we don't have a third year in Illinois without a budget and an allocation plan or a spending plan. So more on that later, and I just want all of you to know that our board does discuss that, and we do monitor that. And if you ever want more information about it, we're happy to share that with all of you. The Illinois State Library is also obviously monitoring the budget situation. They are looking at what will ultimately happen with the fiscal year 2017 budget. That's the year that will end in about a week and a half, as well as the fiscal year 2018, for which we're all sitting waiting to learn more information. In Illinois, we also the state libraries programs are also supported by the federal budget, and the federal budget, because the federal fiscal year starts in October, as opposed to the state fiscal year, which starts, I'm sure you all know, in July. That's where the conversation is, and the discussions are now in Washington. There are quite a few conversations in the appropriation committees about the federal fiscal year 2018 budget, and you have probably, and if you haven't, I'm sure you will soon, seen email messages and announced messages from us about the Institute for Museum and Library Services. That is the organization at the federal level that distributes grants through a program called Grants to States. And in that Grants to States program, there are grants that are Library Services and Technology Act grants, or LSTA. Those fund a lot of the things that we do. Very recently, and specifically for library systems, in the last 4 years, they fund a significant portion of library delivery throughout the state. So the 1/3 of the funding that I mentioned earlier that we've received from the state so far of our area per capita grant is all federal funding through that LSTA our grants to states program. So in the budget that was originally proposed by President Trump, it was his proposal, or the administration's proposal, I'm sure it wasn't his alone, their proposal was to eliminate the Institute for Museum and Library Services. And that's a vital organization that's been in place for many years. And I think the overall expenditure for that for fiscal year 18 that was proposed was $21 million, which would seem like a lot, but it's nowhere near what it normally is. And it was $21 million to phase it out within this fiscal year, which, well, that wouldn't be acceptable, and that would have an incredible impact on our member libraries. So we'll be sending and sharing more information as it becomes available, and showing more opportunities as well for our members to get in touch with their federal legislators when they're in their district, or when there are events in your areas, because they do want to know that when they come home in the summer, they do want to know how those proposed budget components would affect their constituents, and their constituents are votes. So we can definitely point to how that would impact them. Because can you imagine without delivery, without everybody sharing their resources, because no one library can afford to purchase everything, that would have a devastating impact on some of our smaller communities and some of our larger communities as well. This is why you went first, because you have the happy. I have the this is life portion. Also, the board did approve, and then we did submit our fiscal year 2018 system area and per capita grant application. The two primary components of that application are our general fund, capital fund, and share budgets for fiscal year 2018, as well as our plan of service. So our plan of service is really what we use to go forward into that year, and what we measure our progress and our activities against during the year. So it's a roadmap, similar to what a lot of you use for an operational plan that guides you through the year. And like most of our plans, there's a lot of it that's static from year to year, and we're also as static when we add new services. So we're really excited and hopeful that our application will be approved. There will not be any news on approval of that grant until there is a budget at the state level. So another reason for a budget. The board also approved the election results, the election that was held this spring for positions on our board. So we have a 15-member board. Every year, 3 positions become eligible for election. Our board members serve, the terms are 3 years, and by law, each individual can serve 2 consecutive 3-year terms, so 6 years in total on the board. And then if an individual wishes to serve again, they have to sit off the board for 2 years, and then they can run again. So the results were, as an academic library representative, Sandy West, who is our current library system board president. Sandy West is from Rend Lake College. She was elected for a second 3-year term. Susan Pennington, who I mentioned earlier, she was elected for her first 3-year term as a school librarian, and she's from Springfield District, School District 186. Stacy Carter is from the Decatur Correctional Center Library. She was elected as a special libraries representative, and this is her first 3-year term on our board. Mary Smith is a public library trustee representative. She is from the Belleville Public Library, and she will begin her first 3-year term. And Gary Deneau, who was elected for his second 3-year term. Gary is a public library trustee representative from the Eversville Public Library. All new system board directors will be seated at our July board meeting. Okay, so we're really happy to have all those new folks with us, and we're also sad to see the individuals who will be retiring from our board this year as well. Sad to see them go, but happy for their service to all of you. In additional information, our news from our board meeting, The board approved our board meeting dates for fiscal year 2018. Those are posted on our website. They also approved our fiscal year 2018 holidays and approved a purchase of additional vehicles out of fiscal year 2017 funds. And I believe we're purchasing another box truck because delivery is important. What does the back of your shirt say? You want to stand up so they can? So this is just a little aside. I don't know if you can see can you see it, Julia? It says teamwork makes the dream work.
I can see
We had
it.
a contest there. See, he's a great model, isn't he? He's a fabulous model. He's wonderful. Yes, he's great. So I mentioned delivery because we had a contest with our delivery staff a couple of months ago, actually with our sorters, because we moved to a different model of how we operate internally with delivery during this fiscal year, where we have drivers who drive and sorters who sort, meaning that previously our drivers would go out for 5 to 6 hours at a time and drive, and then they would return to the office or the hub, and then they would sort for a couple of hours. That's very good. However, I don't know about you, but when I come back, if I've been out driving, and I have done that, I'm not really good with detail after a while of being in and out of a truck and visiting with our member libraries, and then coming back and trying to focus. You're doing not maybe minute detail work, and then you're coming back after several hours of work, and then you're doing minute detail, and it's easy to miss. So we moved to a process where drivers are driving longer routes, maybe 7 to 9 hours at a time, and when they return, they're not sorting. And in exchange, we have fewer trucks out each day, which means fewer routes each day. However, all of our libraries are on a route, which allows them to get up to 5-day-a-week delivery. And then we have a second shift who comes in the middle of the afternoon, and they do sorting only. So these are our sorters, and they had a contest, and they designed T-shirts. So I think this was one of our winning T-shirt designs. So I just want to plug our operations staff and our sorters especially. They are our newest group of employees, and we're really happy to have them. And, you know, woohoo for us and woohoo for all of you, because we did all of that based on responses from a survey, the sorting especially, responses from last year's delivery survey, where there were concerns that were expressed about the inaccuracy of items. So it does no one any good if your library, if you requested a material and you get the wrong item at your library, or you send something to somebody's library and it doesn't get there on time, it does no good. So we wanted to improve that process, and we think that we have by doing this, and we were able to incorporate other improvements as well in delivery. So we're really happy. Oh, I'm just happy in general. It's nice, I hope, outside for all of you. Maybe it's a little cooler. Ooh, there was a couple hot days. Any questions?
Very.
Yeah, very, no
Yeah.
kidding. Any questions so far about our board meeting? Anything that came out of our board meeting?
No one has typed anything in the chat box, but if you have a
Okay.
mic, you can go ahead and ask.
Are we seeing any mics?
No.
Someday we're going to get a grant to get you all mics so I can talk to all of you. It'll be so much more fun.
Leslie, are you going to mention what happens next week?
I am. I've got several things on my list, Julia. Thank you.
Okay.
So next week's a busy week for us, and so I'd like to share with you what's going on. Next Tuesday is our annual meeting. We have been celebrating our anniversary as a new organization at our June meeting. So our June meeting, our annual meeting this year will be held at our Carbondale office at 4 p.m. next Tuesday. It's located on the campus of Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. And I know there's an invitation somewhere on our website, right, Julia? And it's also listed
Yes.
in L2. Okay.
Yes.
That meeting begins at 4 o'clock, and that's generally a celebration of what we've accomplished. I believe there's a video. I know there's a video that celebrates our achievements as an organization and focuses on our members. And it's more of a social gathering and a networking opportunity. And there's lots of good food. Are you coming?
Yeah.
Okay, Brandon's coming. And
Especially since you mentioned food.
it's always a good thing, right? And then that will be followed by the June board meeting proper at 5 o'clock. So our board meetings are always available by video conference attendance at our 3 office locations, Champaign, Carbondale, and Edwardsville, plus the Illinois State Library and the Effingham Public Library and Southern Illinois College, which is located at Harrisburg. So that will be available at all those locations. It's just that we have tried in the years past to have that annual meeting be available at all locations. It just doesn't translate well over video conference, and it's usually more confusing than helpful.
Virtual reality.
We could stream it somehow. I don't know that we may not want to try that one this year. Also coming up at the end of next week, some of our staff are presenting at the American Library Association conference in Chicago. So if any of you are able to attend, you might want to check out the session on e-resources that's at which Leslie Zavaduke will be participating. That I believe is on Saturday. I don't have the dates and times, but she is listed in the program. And then on Sunday in the afternoon, so Leslie's is a sit-down session. On Sunday, Susan Palmer and her delivery colleagues from Illinois, as well as our colleagues from the Laboratory of Applied Spatial Analysis at SIU Edwardsville, and Mobius, which is a consortium in Missouri, will be presenting a poster session, I believe, in the afternoon on delivery and different approaches to delivery within a state and across multi-states. So we're all looking forward to those presentations because our staff are very much involved. And then the last bit I want to share with you is that our next Members Matter gathering will be July 10th at 10 a.m. at the Decatur Public Library. We hope to see you there or on Zoom. How did I do, Julia? Did I get everything you wanted me to include?
Oh, fine. I could mention that I did post the share director position. It is now posted on the website.
Great. So if you haven't heard, thank you, Julia. If you haven't heard, Chris Dowdy is retiring again from us, but I believe technically she's not retiring from us, so it's called a resignment or something. Someone made up a new word. She's already retired from the education field. So, but she will be leaving us full-time anyway at the end of August. And so that position has been posted externally. We posted it internally a week ago. So if any of you are interested, please check out that position. Posting on our grants page. Nope, not our grants page. That's silly, on our jobs page. And also, if you know of anybody, please share that information with them. Our share organization is a mighty fine organization, and they deserve a fabulous leader going forward. Anything else, Julia, that I didn't mention?
I'm good.
I'm sure there is. She's funny. Well, we really appreciate you visiting with us. Anything else, Brandon?
Not that I could think of.
Okay. I'm sure we'll have Brandon back as a guest again, as a visitor. Maybe you could just lead it. You can just do the whole thing. We'll find something else to talk about.
I know I'm properly broken in.
It'll be fine. It'll be great. We really do appreciate you spending some time with us, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Susan Carr. She's still there.
How do I close?
X?
I
Is there an X,
unmuted her.
Susan? Oh, you should have unmuted her. We could have talked to her. Is there an X or a red dot in the top left?
It's okay. I
Bottom
will.
left.